Well-being and mental health can be something that is often overlooked in the conversation about health, and particularly the health of ATSI people. It's fairly common knowledge that if you have a broken arm or a sore tummy, you go to a doctor. They might prescribe you a medication, wrap up your arm in a sling, send you home, and with a bit of physical rest, you'll be back to yourself in no time. The problem is that with mental health, it's a little more complex. Mental health is something that happens in our heads. If we don't tell someone, it's quite likely that no one will notice, and it just happens within ourselves. So this means that if we're not equipped to recognize the signs of mental health, then we might just let it slide and it could get worse and worse. And this is particularly the case for ATSI communities. Indigenous people, although they live in communities, often will, it's shown in studies that they'll often experience a high level of physical distress. The Bureau of Australian Statistics in 2010 reported that 31% of Australian and Torres Strait Islander people aged over 15 reported high to very high levels of psychological distress. And this is an incredible percentage that we really as teachers need to be aware of is actually present in our classroom. That 31% is actually represented in our classrooms. And even though this statistic is for ages 15 and above, there are going to be those early signs in our primary school classrooms. The ACARA documentation, which you all should be familiar with, in section 2.7 is focused on, and this is the title of the section in ACARA, improving educational outcomes for Indigenous youth and disadvantaged young Australians, especially those from low socioeconomic backgrounds. And although this is focused on an education point, much of this actually helps to scaffold and improve and support the mental health of young Indigenous students. One of the points here, and again this is straight from the ACARA documentation, point 27, it says developing a 4-year action plan to close the gap for Indigenous children and young people, and that can actually be a specific plan for individuals that can be implemented by the teachers, the school as a whole, to help support that young person both physically, mentally, which is the mental health aspect, and in their learning. Another point that they've put there is supporting coordinated community services, which again can include health services that can support mental health. And this can be including students and their families, and it will help to increase the attendance and engagement at school. Attendance and engagement at school has been proven to actually lower the level of mental health issues. Again, ACARA is aiming to encourage a strong focus on the educational needs, the mental health and well-being of individual students, which helps actually support that young person so that if they do feel like they're struggling, not necessarily with something so visible as a broken arm, but as something that is a mental health issue, they can actually be equipped with a community of people to support them. There is actually a great video that is linked just below here about mental health and suicide issues. That is again one of the most prominent mental health issues. Unfortunately, it's something so permanent, and it's a decision that young people are going to more and more, and it's something that we really need to be equipped as. So if you'd like to watch that video, I would really encourage you to do so.